I find one of the comments about nonverbals, and my first work when I started in mental health was working on a 24-hour drug abuse hotline, and having to do hotline work and really not having the nonverbals to work with, although feeling like there was some sort of therapeutic connection that was going on at that point. And so when we consider virtual presence, I wanted to throw this slide up, the necessary and sufficient conditions for change, as Roger spoke about. Because the question I have, are these conditions possible in a virtual world? Can people have psychological contact? Can one be congruent and the other one be incongruent? Just take a look at them and see if you have any reflections on that. The relational world, but does it have the possibility for therapeutic change? Having a microphone does help, but you're also stuck with often with the nonverbals. One of the things that we were doing at the center was trying to create the opportunity for students to practice various sorts of counseling skills. And so the chairs and the sofas that you see on the second floor of the center created a real problem. Yeah, Andrew, I think your mic is back on. And so the chairs themselves had animations built in them, and what happened was the students would sit down and try and do a counseling session, and then suddenly the counselor would lean back and throw their arms behind their head. And so we realized we needed to replace, we haven't done it yet, but we need to replace the chairs with ones that don't have animations, just so the students can have that impact without having nonverbals get in the way. So I am curious about, I think there may be fewer ways to establish congruence. Our avatars move without our intention. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Does anybody have a folder of counselor animations to wear? That's, creating animations are very, very difficult to do, but that would be an interesting project. These statements that given the statements that I've just put up about what Roger's general beliefs about people, can we have create those same sorts of beliefs about folks in Second Life? You hear a lot about doubt in Second Life. You hear a lot about people not being trusted in relationships and in communications. But any thoughts about these sorts of basic beliefs about people and how they fit in the virtual world? Along those lines, as Anne Marie was saying, I read somewhere that Second Life was really sort of Jung's playground, because it allowed people to, if they wanted to, play in any and exercise in any archetype that they wish to exercise in. I think, you heard earlier today about people's testing out behaviors like suicide, or those kinds of things that can be done in Second Life. I think there are a lot of other types of potential positive relationships and positive behaviors and experiences and connections that people can try out in Second Life. Anne Marie brings up a good point, the idea that because of a certain amount of anonymity in this world, you almost have a choice where you can be deceptive, or you can try to be completely honest, because there's not a risk. Then here are the three big things that Roger's talked about as being important in terms of counselor qualities. Maybe some thoughts about that. And I think one of the things that we miss in terms of acceptance, but also freedom, there's an awful lot of freedom in here that people might not have in their real life in terms of being able to be self-determined. And for that can be very growth enhancing for folks too. It also allows them to do some stuff that they wouldn't normally do in real life because of just sort of moral and social controls. I have some ideas about congruence and genuineness. Opportunities in here for counselors to act as models for folks who might feel a bit less empowered to do so. Yeah, actually, from a training standpoint, one of the things that we wanted to do with the center was often when students are doing role plays, they're doing it with somebody that they've done role plays with in all of their classes. So the idea of bringing in students from different universities where they wind up working with avatars and real life people they've never worked with before in doing role plays and doing simulations. And the idea will also be that they never would naturally meet them in real life. So they don't have any preconceived notions about it, and there might also be some freedom of movement with less risk. We tried to do a little of that at the center and found some of our doctoral students who would work with the University of South Florida master's students in being cases for a career counseling. Can you say what you mean by that? I think a lot of people here are looking for a more authentic kind of relationship. I think there is a disinhibition effect. I think you're onto something there, Jack. Well, I'm watching the time, and what I want to do is just kind of run through some more slides and finish off this presentation. Really not say anything, but again, these slides are available. Right, it's very funny because right now my point of view is I'm almost like I'm standing behind Andrew, and he keeps turning around and looking at me right in the camera. But there's a real virtual presence there. So let me run through some of these slides. They're also in the book, and then we'll take any final comments, either text or chat. I really like the fact that this was more of a conversation, especially at the end of this day, what's been a long day, and you've sat through a lot of presentations where folks have been giving you lots of great information, but just the opportunity to talk about the experience and think about it on a deeper level. And so just some ideas about unconditional positive, and maybe speaking to Jack's idea about disinhibition and sort of having non-judgmental relationships. And that third part of Rogers with unconditional positive regard, or accurate empathic understanding. Despite forming these relationships, you also need to create some separateness. And I think our keynoter tonight talked about that, the importance of doing that. These were the questions I was going to pose at the end. They're in the book, and just some ideas about this. I think we've talked about some of these. And then finally some references for some of the things on virtual presence. So that wraps it up for me, unless there's any more conversation or chat. I do want to let you know in about 30 minutes on the roof of the center, we're just going to have a gathering. I rezzed a tiki bar up there, and I don't know if Deborah's done some work up there in the meantime, but if people want to either text, chat, come up, we can throw some music on if people want to do that. Oh, she just sent a notice. Oh, okay. It just popped up on my screen. All right. See you in 30 minutes if you're willing to hang around for a virtual glass of wine or a virtual beer. Talk to you sometime soon.